Imagine this. You and two friends order the exact same pizza. One of you says, "This is incredible." Another says, "Too much cheese, disgusting." The third person is busy scraping off the olives like they're poisonous. Now zoom out. The same thing happens with coffee, with music, with modern houses, with old houses, with paintings, with perfume, with faces. The things one person calls beautiful, another person calls boring, ugly, overwhelming, or just not for them. So, what is actually going on here? Are people just random? Is taste only personality? Or is there a deeper reason why human beings can look at the same thing, taste the same thing, hear the same thing, and come away feeling something completely different? Because once you see what's really shaping your preferences, you start noticing it everywhere, in your kitchen, in your feed, in your relationships, and even in the kind of places you dream of living. By the end of this video, you'll see that your taste is not one thing. It's a mix of biology, memory, culture, exposure, identity, and one very sneaky trick your brain uses all the time. And yes, that means there's a scientific reason why one person loves blue cheese, another hates it, and a third suddenly starts loving it at 28. Let's begin with the weirdest part. Your taste may have started before you were even born. Researchers have found that flavors from a mother's diet can reach the fetus before birth and later through breast milk after birth. In other words, long before someone has opinions about sushi, black coffee, or spicy food, their brain is already collecting data about what food from my world tastes like. That matters because the brain is obsessed with one question: is this familiar and is it safe? That's why repeated exposure is such a big deal. The more often we encounter a flavor, the less alien it feels. So sometimes "I don't like this" doesn't actually mean this tastes bad. It can mean my brain hasn't learned this yet. And this isn't just about food. That same pattern shows up in art, design, and aesthetics too. We often like things more after repeated exposure, especially when they move from confusing to familiar without becoming boring. So already taste is not just a personal choice in the moment. It's partly a history of what your brain has learned to recognize. But there's an even bigger misunderstanding. When people say taste, they usually mean flavor. And flavor is not just happening on your tongue. Your tongue can detect a handful of basic taste qualities like sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami. But when you eat, that information gets combined with smell, texture, temperature, irritation, and even sound. That whole package becomes flavor. That's why food goes bland when your nose is blocked. It's also why a crisp apple feels different from applesauce, even if the ingredients are basically the same. Your brain isn't scoring only chemistry, it's building an experience. And once you realize that, a lot of bad taste starts looking like context. Color changes expectation. The look of a drink can make people expect sweetness or bitterness. The plate, the cup, the room, the music, even the crunch can push the brain in one direction before the food has fully arrived. So sometimes you don't dislike the thing itself, you dislike the way your brain predicted it would be and the disappointment that followed. This is also why expensive restaurants can make ordinary ingredients feel extraordinary. They are not just feeding your mouth, they're feeding expectation, attention, and atmosphere. Quick experiment. If you ever want to feel this for yourself, try tasting something with your nose pinched shut, then release it halfway through. That sudden, there it is moment tells you something important. A lot of what you thought was taste was your brain reconstructing flavor from multiple channels at once. And here's the creepy modern twist. Your digital environment does something similar for aesthetics. If your feed keeps showing you one kind of interior, one kind of fashion, one kind of face, one kind of travel dream, that style starts feeling more normal, more legible, more desirable. Not necessarily because it is better, but because it is becoming easier for your brain to recognize and predict. Now let's leave food for a second and talk about beauty. Why does one person love clean modern architecture while another person says it feels cold and lifeless? Why does one face feel attractive, one room feel calming, and one design feel instantly right? Part of the answer is something psychologists call processing fluency. In simple terms, the easier something is for your brain to process, the more likely you are to feel positively toward it. not always, but often. Things like symmetry, contrast, repetition, prototypical shapes, and familiarity can make perception feel smoother, and that smoothness can feel good. This helps explain why familiarity matters so much in aesthetics. A building style that fits what you already understand may feel elegant, while something equally impressive but harder to read can feel wrong, pretentious, or chaotic. There's even research on house facades showing that preference often peaks at an intermediate level of complexity. Too plain is dull, too complex is overwhelming. Right in the middle feels interesting without feeling exhausting. That sweet spot is different for different people because easy to process depends on experience. An architect may enjoy complexity that a non architect finds confusing. Someone raised around minimalist interiors may find ornate rooms busy. Someone raised around older homes may find modern boxes emotionally empty. So when people argue about what kind of house is beautiful, they're not just revealing status or personality, they're revealing what their brains have learned to navigate comfortably. But taste is not built in isolation. Other people are constantly editing it. Studies on food behavior show that social norms can change what people prefer and choose. If your group treats a food like normal, cool, sophisticated, or disgusting, your own judgment often shifts with it. And in aesthetics, social conformity pressure can change the way people rate images and artistic quality too. That means taste is partly social survival. If everybody around you drinks espresso, wears neutral colors, praises brutalist architecture, laughs at pineapple pizza, or worships natural wine, your brain doesn't just store those opinions as information, it stores them as signals about belonging. And that is powerful because humans do not merely want to detect what is good, we also want to detect what is good for people like us. That one sentence explains a shocking amount of human behavior. Why do trends spread so fast? Why do some songs sound annoying the first time and amazing a month later? Why does a fashion style seem ridiculous until enough people around you wear it confidently? Because your preferences are not shaped only by the object, they are shaped by the social meaning attached to that object. Taste, in part, is identity with decoration. Now let's go into the most controversial zone, attraction. People often ask whether beauty is objective or subjective, as if one of those has to win. But the research points to a more interesting answer. There are some patterns of broad agreement. Across cultures, people often show overlapping judgments about certain attractive facial traits. But that is only part of the story. At the same time, research also shows that individual face preferences are shaped mostly by environments unique to each person, more than by genes. In plain English, yes, there are shared patterns, but your personal type is also deeply shaped by your own life experience. That means the faces, styles, expressions, subcultures, and emotional associations you personally encountered over time may matter enormously. Maybe someone reminds you very subtly of warmth, confidence, safety, rebellion, tenderness, or a kind of beauty your world taught you to notice. Often you won't be aware of that process at all. You'll just call it chemistry. And this principle stretches far beyond attraction. Why does one person find a home cozy while another finds it cramped? Why does one painting feel profound while another feels pretentious? Why does one city feel alive while another feels stressful? Because preference sits at the intersection of shared human wiring and private biography, not just what humans like, not just what I like, but what a human like me learned to like. So, can you change your taste? Yes, but not instantly. You can absolutely change your taste because taste is partly training. Repeated exposure can increase food acceptance, especially in children, but adults change too. Context can change taste, knowledge can change taste, social circles can change taste, attention can change taste. Even learning what to look for in architecture, coffee, wine, music, or art can make a previously flat experience suddenly come alive. That's why so many things in life follow the same arc. First, I hate this, then I don't get this. Then, wait, I kind of get it. And finally, how did I ever live without this? Of course, not everything will grow on you. Biology still matters, experience still matters. Some dislikes are stable, some are intense, some are completely reasonable. But when taste changes, it usually doesn't happen because your brain became less authentic. It happens because your brain got more fluent, more familiar, and more connected to meaning. So, why do tastes differ? Because there is no single thing called taste. What you like is built from sensory biology, early exposure, smell, memory, expectation, personality, social identity, cultural learning, and the kinds of patterns your brain can process with ease. That's why the same meal can taste incredible to one person and awful to another. Why the same house can feel elegant to one person and soulless to another. Why the same face, song, or painting can land completely differently depending on who is looking. Taste is not randomness, it's your nervous system meeting your life story. And honestly, that might be the best part. Because if people's preferences were identical, the world would be efficient and unbearably boring. So the next time someone says, "How can you possibly like that?" The real answer is because my brain, my body, and my life did not build the same map as yours. And if you want, tell me in the comments. What's one food, design style, song, or wildly unpopular opinion you love that most people around you do not? Because after this video, that answer is going to be way more interesting than it just tastes good.